Donald Trump sat down with Howard Kurtz on Fox News, and while most of Trump's Fox News interviews are softballs, Howard Kurtz is someone who will do actual interviews, so that's really exciting to see. And as always happens, when Trump is asked real questions, he implodes, and things get really bad very quickly, as we're going to walk through. So let's start with on the subject of January 6th and Trump being asked at that Univision town hall about it. Someone who said that and Trump's reaction to the election lies really turned them off from Trump. And Trump responded by, at one point, saying January 6th was a day of love. Howard Kurtz, of course, asked about this and eventually cuts to a fact check.
I think so. They had no guns. They had no guns.
So
that was a peaceful.
So you're comfortable with a day of love?
No.
You wouldn't modify that?
I'm talking about when I made that speech, I've never seen anything like it. They came down to protest a rigged election. Very simple. They protested an election. And you know what? I think you have the right to protest in this country.
Yeah. I don't really have to clarify what he's leaving out there. Then here Howard Kurtz actually edits in correctly a fact check.
Ever had.
To clarify, police did not usher protesters into the Capitol. They were totally overrun, though in some cases they may have beaten a tactical retreat. Donald Trump continues to argue, as you know, that the last election was rigged, though that's never been proven in any of the lawsuits filed.
Yeah, and of course, because he's a Fox host, he can't say it as clearly as you should, which is not just that it hasn't yet been proven, hasn't been proven somewhere, but instead, at hundreds of opportunities, the opposite was proven. The legitimacy, the security of the election was demonstrated. Then an extended portion of this January 6th discussion.
The other day you called it a day of love. That sparked a lot of reaction, given that many police officers were attacked.
By the way, please do click the subscribe button. Before the election, now we have days left. I've been saying that for so long. We're right there. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers. Please help us get there if you're not already subscribed. To those of you who are, thank you so much.
And there were mobs shouting, "Hang Mike Pence." Can you understand why many Americans would view it as a dark and tragic day in our history?
The crowd I spoke before, which you rarely see, I have pictures of it, massive, but nobody wants to put them in. It was the biggest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I've spoken to the biggest crowds. I've never seen that many people. Mm-hmm. A small group of them, and peacefully and patriotically, which nobody uses. My words were peacefully and patriotically. A small group went down to the Capitol, but they came because they thought it was a rigged election. This was a protest against a rigged election, and I can't say exactly the number, but I've had massive crowds, and this was by far the biggest crowd. I've spoken to the crowd at the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial on the 4th of July. This crowd was bigger. And I tell you, there was a beauty to it and there was a love to it that I've never seen before.
But Mr. President,
a small group of people went down to the Capitol, and then a lot of strange things happened.
Yeah, and that's when he gets into the lies that Kurtz had to fact check. I don't know how you see that. And as a Trump supporter, don't go. In so many ways, this guy's unfit. Obviously, him lying about the election, him trying to stay in power despite losing, the January 6th riots, the lies after that continuing, then the siding with the people who attacked the Capitol, calling them patriots, playing their national anthem, them singing it to honor them and all this stuff. But on top of all of it, how twisted does your brain have to be to get asked about a day like that one? And all you can keep bumbling on about is how big the crowd was. What is wrong with you? That's so strange, aside from the immorality, aside from how vile it is. It's just, what? Who's going, oh, good point. There was a lot of people there. What? Then on his Springfield lies, Trump still won't denounce them.
Those things.
Your famous line about Springfield, Ohio, and I take your point that 15 to 20,000 legal Haitian immigrants settling in that area causes a lot of friction. But when you said, and you know it's gone viral, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, you say you're just reporting what had been said. But why not say now, well, look, that turned out not to be true.
I don't know if
Here's
it's
my
not true.
verdict.
I don't know if it's true or not true. I read
Eating
something.
the pets, you don't know if it's true or not true?
No.
It's been debunked by
Well,
local
they say,
officials.
what about the geese? What about the geese? What happened there? They're all missing. I don't
was
know.
one guy with two geese.
Howie, I have no idea. I said something.
He is not an okay person. He's not well. Imagine that. No, we do know. We do. The only story I saw was a non-Haitian white dude took a goose when he wasn't supposed to. Why do you keep lying? And then the only other thing that has substantiated these claims, I use that term loosely because it didn't, what they thought was evidence, was just a photo that wasn't from Springfield of a black guy cleaning off roadkill or something, and it was a goose, and the guy wasn't Haitian. Okay, so every part of it was wrong. But Trump does this thing where he says, I'm just reporting on what I heard. Well, then do you ever hear that it's wrong and then report that? No. You spread hateful lies, chaos erupts, and you have no shame about it. Then his authoritarian promise to get CBS off the air because he didn't like Kamala Harris's interview.
But you go a step further and you say CBS should lose its license. Why?
Sure. Well, I've never seen anything like it. She gave a horrible, incompetent answer on a news program. It's not an entertainment program. They call it news. They say it's a #1 news program.
And of course, he goes on to say that Kamala Harris was somehow helped by editing that was done in the interview, even though it's not election interference, as he's called it. 60 Minutes edits every interview, as well as the Trump interviews, to sort of put them together in a way that fits into the time frame that they want to put the interview in the best. Then you have Trump on his former top military official speaking out against him, saying this.
General Jim Mattis, who was your Secretary of Defense, has now joined General Mark Milley, who was your Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, in saying, this is their quote, you are the most dangerous person ever. I assume you'd like to respond.
Well, they were not my cup of tea. They were woke. You know that. They were not great generals, in my opinion. I was asking them advice. I didn't agree with the advice. Look at the advice that Milley gave to Biden on Afghanistan. Move the soldiers out first. No, you have to move the soldiers out last. I don't respect them as soldiers. I never did. I fired them both.
Yeah, that wasn't the advice that was given. And he continues. He did not fire Milley either. Wasn't Milley asked about? He didn't fire Milley. Because Milley stayed as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff into Biden's administration. But anyone who's not only loyal to Trump and dares to be loyal to the Constitution first, Trump has an issue with. He also doubled down in this interview on his enemies from within comment.
You talk about the enemy within. There's enemies, America's enemies outside. The enemy within is a pretty ominous phrase if you're talking about other Americans.
I think it's accurate. I think it's accurate.
Who are you talking about? Who's
And,
the enemy?
I heard that. They say, the enemy.
And Trump has specified, but I'll play more of this, that it's people like Adam Schiff and how the adversaries abroad aren't as dangerous to us as people that he disagrees with politically.
The outside people, the so-called enemies, if they're enemies, and they might not be enemies, if you have a smart president, they can be handled. But when you have people investigating my campaign, when you have people, they spied on my campaign, how you understand that. That's been proven. But they
False.
spy on your campaign. The Russia hoax was all made up, and now
False.
it's acknowledged that it was made up. All of these different things. You have the 51 different agents saying it was from Russia, and now they all say it wasn't from Russia. Okay, so we were lying. Many other things, many. I could go.
All of the earmarks of Russian disinformation, not that it was from Russia.
Don't have enough time. But what they've done is so terrible. Who's ever heard of anything like this? Adam Shifty Schiff, he's a crooked guy. He's a crooked politician, 100%. And he's going to be a senator now. Can you believe it?
But again, he's a political opponent of yours.
He's
but
not.
Is he
No,
an enemy?
No, he's a. Well, he is. Of course, he's an enemy. He's an enemy.
Yeah, this is not someone you want in the White House who's going to be consumed by vitriolic ambition to enact retribution. You want someone who's going to spend their time in office serving people, trying to benefit the lives of Americans. But for Trump, it's going to be about him using the power that he has to harm those that he feels wronged by. And that's not how you want that wildly powerful office to be wielded. And remember that now Trump will be completely unleashed because of the Supreme Court decision, placing him in many ways above the law. Then finally, Howard Kurtz cuts out of this interview or when it wraps, he says, and then after this interview, Trump went on to do something crazy.
Being down with us here at Trump Tower.
Thank you very much. It's been fun. Thank you, Howard.
After our interview, Donald Trump flew to Pennsylvania, Arnold Palmer's hotel, where he discussed the golfer's signs of his manhood, dismissed Kamala Harris with a curse word, and asked the old Reagan question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? The vice president was in Atlanta, where she made the case for abortion rights, said Trump lacked compassion, and was joined by the family of a Georgia woman who died because she didn't receive proper medical care due to abortion restrictions. After the break, Brett Baer.
Pretty different rallies, huh? Arnold Palmer's manhood or policy discussions. Big difference. And I say again, if you're out there thinking that you were better off 4 years ago than you are now, when we were in the middle of the crisis of a century 4 years ago, I think you're experiencing a little bit of the Trumpian amnesia that people are buying into. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Support the show, get the members only bonus by clicking the join button below.